Will Kamala Khan and her ragtag friends be able to stand against Empath and the brand new, darker version of the Quiet Council? Well, let's get caught up on NYX by hopping into the pages of issue number 3 and issue number 4, shall we? So then, keeping up with the gimmick that was established in the first issue, even though this is technically a team book, they do a fun thing by giving each individual member of the team their own focus issue. In this case, it's Annoli's turn, as we discover after the big bar fight from issue 1, he actually ended up losing his job at that trendy nightclub, which is a real shame. Because in the last Laura issue, we learned exactly what sorts of dangers await unhoused mutants out there on the mean streets of New York. Today is also a pretty emotionally trying day too, as the entire New York mutant community has shown up for the memorial of a young mutant by the name of Shay who was murdered in a hate crime after he accidentally flashed the Midnight M symbol to the wrong person. This funeral actually ends up being a major star-studded affair. Not only is there Miss Marvel and Sophie are in attendance, but also that gang that Laura was running with from the previous issue, as well as the biggest star of them all, Caliban, and his entire cadre. This guy had actually fallen off the face of the earth following the final battle with Orchis, so him showing up now the way he is a little bit suspicious. This issue is also fascinating too, because it really zeroes in on mutant kind's new and evolving relationship to death. Again, remember, it wasn't that long ago, living on Krakoa, they were able to resurrect as much as they want. Now they can actually die again, and they're feeling more vulnerable than ever. They basically need to remind themselves what exactly a funeral is and what one should look like in the brand new mutant parlance. And actually, I like it quite a lot because it's basically an inverse of the birth scenes from Krakoa. Now, Annoli actually takes it upon himself after the services to follow Caliban and see where he goes. Turns out he's actually re-established an entire Morlock community deep within the sewers. And because the former bartending mutant doesn't have a job, meaning he won't have a place to live soon, he thinks, hey, you know what, maybe this is the answer to all of my prayers. Back up on the surface though, things get heated when this mutant funeral ends up getting crashed by more of those truth seekers, those anti-mutant streamer types. Only get this time Kamala actually recognizes one of them as her cousin. In fact, he's with Amir, who she's actually been lying to this whole time about her activities with mutant kind. And no, the irony isn't lost on anyone at all that Kamala and Amir's cousin, this second-generation Muslim American, is painting mutant kind with all the same ignorant, racist vitriol that his very people had to suffer following 9/11. Oh, but it gets so much worse as these truth seekers decide they don't want to just stand around and protest anymore. They want to actually go and commit some real-deal hate crimes themselves. And why, yes, they have indeed decided to target Caliban and his group of Morlocks for an attack. Annoli doesn't know any of this just yet. In fact, he actually ends up getting his feelings quite hurt when Caliban and the other Morlocks ask him, does he know his true place in this world? Is he an X-Man or is he one of them? It's here the floodgates really open for Annoli, and he has to start asking himself, why must there always be such division even amongst the mutant community? Why must every mutant even carry around the stereotype that at any moment they could just jump in the Blackbird and go fight Sentinel? Some people just want to live normal lives, where they can walk around freely with their scaly skin and one arm bigger than the other. Actually, this kicks off a bigger theme that will be explored even more so in the next issue. Before Annoli can make his decision, it's at this point the True Seekers end up showing up heavily armed and in their best Purifier get-ups, although actually Kamal even makes a joke later about how these guys totally look like villains from any Purge movie. The good guys reinforce Annoli and the rest of the Morlocks, who fight bravely, defeating this invading force, though what comes next actually puts our heroes in something of an interesting moral conundrum. What the hell do they do with these guys? Laura the Wolverine just wants to kill them all, though Sophie wonders if doing so is such a good idea. They probably have families and they don't want the cops to come looking for them. It would only put the Morlocks in a worse position. Kamala is understandably pretty anti-murder too, and also shuts down Sophie Cuckoo's ideas of giving them all mental lobotomy, so instead they just wipe their minds and send them on their way. Annoli has also made his decision too. He wants to live with the Morlocks, he wants to live freely, the life he's always wanted, but he also wants to remain part of the good fight, figuring that there shouldn't be any divide between the X-Men and the Morlocks and the mutants in general, and if he is out there in the public helping save the day, then surely he'll be able to attract others to where they can be safe with Caliban. Now, as issue 3 ends up coming to a close, we actually see Sophie Cuckoo going to take a meeting with her sisters and Empath. Yeah, apparently she's actually been a secret sleeper agent for the bad guys this whole time. Her main goal was actually to try and get closer to Kamala Khan Miss Marvel, not to flip flip her and turn them to her cause, but to actually point her in a direction as part of the Dark Quiet Council's bigger master plan. But for that, we have to dig into issue number 4, which dropped just this week. Once again, the focus shifts, and this issue is all about Prodigy. We've seen him a bunch throughout the first 3 issues, and here we actually get to see some major events from his point of view. Mainly him being called out by Sophie Cuckoo and other mutants for being so defeatist when it comes to Krakoa, teaching their history like it's already come and gone. In reality, though, Prodigy is a lot more conflicted. In fact, we get to read many excerpts from his journal that read like a great grand thesis on mutant relations. How almost from the beginning of time, mutants have been stuck with a binary cut down the middle, either integrate or dominate. Either Magneto was right or Xavier was right. In fact, this whole integrate or dominate idea is kind of the central thesis across the entirety of the From Ashes line. And even though Prodigy has been trying to keep his head down and not get involved and trying to make the most of his teaching gig at NYU, he still needs a creative outlet, and apparently he's been sneaking out to do pro-mutant graffiti at night. Prodigy's simple if conflicted life ends up getting completely upended though when Kamala barges into his office saying that she has finally managed to crack this case of the Krakoan wide open. You see, while at Sophie's place, Kamala managed to grab a yearbook from Prodigy's time at the Xavier Academy, and hey, wouldn't you know it, a bunch of the most important people involved all happen to be in the same class. And because it's been well established before, Miss Marvel is able to riddle out that the mysterious Krakoan must be Julian Keller, aka the former Hellion. At first, Prodigy doesn't want to believe this, even though the powers and psychosis sure match. Nor does he particularly want to get involved when Miss Marvel says that maybe Prodigy could help actually turn Keller back to the good side. More importantly too, Miss Marvel has managed to follow the patterns left behind by the Krakoan's train attacks, and because of that, she's riddled out that the Krakoan will next strike in Times Square. His attack pattern's actually making a big X, in case you're wondering. Miss Marvel also assumes that this was made ultra simple in an attempt to try and draw her out. With Prodigy still playing Switzerland, it looks like it's going to be up to Miss Marvel and Sophie to deal with this problem on their own. They go to meet the Krakoan in Times Square, and he greets them with the oh-so-familiar "Welcome to die," which, if you're an X-Men arcade fan, will truly tickle you. I know it certainly did me. It's also here too, Kamala ends up surprising me as the reader by basically calling Sophie out, knowing full well that their friendship was probably part of a much bigger setup. After all, why would she have a yearbook from a year where she was supposedly dead? Oh man, genre savvy really is Kamala's greatest power. Ms. Marvel hopes she can appeal to Sophie's better angels and that maybe their friendship wasn't totally built on a lie, though interestingly enough, when push comes to shove, Sophie does ultimately end up backing the new Quiet Council and her sisters, meaning that poor Miss Marvel has to fight the Krakoan all alone, and man, she ends up getting absolutely mollywopped in the streets, which, as we discover, was actually part of the plan from the beginning. Miss Marvel is actually one of the more famous mutant superheroes operating in New York right now, so Empath and the others figured if they could have their champion defeat her very publicly in front of the assembled world media, then they could use it as a rallying cry to get the rest of New York's displaced mutants on their side. And indeed, the world does see Miss Marvel getting a beatdown, but it ends up having the exact opposite effect as Prodigy finally decides now he needs to actually get up and into the game, even though he knows full well doing so will end up completely decimating the comfortable life and job he's managed to get for himself post-Krakoa. But hey, you know what, at the end of the day, being an X-Men is part of mutant culture. So is being a hero and doing good for that matter, and indeed, Prodigy manages to impress right out of the gate. He keeps the cuckoo psychic attacks out of his head, because, you know, unlike the sisters, he actually was a good student and actually did pay attention in school, and because of that is able to guard his mind by using the trigger phrase resist. As far as taking down Hellion though, that also proves to be fairly easy. Prodigy uses his parkour skills to wrap him up and take advantage of the fact that maybe his heart wasn't nearly as in this plot as it first seemed. The day is saved, but unfortunately everyone saw what Prodigy did, meaning that he's going to be going to jail. Well, actually worse than jail, he's going to be going to the Grey Mulkin facility, which you'll know all about if you've been reading the Uncanny X-Men book, meaning that the only person who could possibly save him right now is, you guessed it, Sophie, the only character in this ensemble book who hasn't actually gotten a focus issue yet, but we'll have to read about that adventure next time. And so that was NYX issue number 3 and number 4, everybody, and man, am I glad I was able to make time to circle back to this one, because Kelly and Lanzig really have crafted something special here and something that feels so unlike all the other X-Men books. Like I said, it's an ensemble piece, it's a team book, but it's not really structured like a team book. Everyone has their own lives and issues that all just kind of end up intersecting with each other in fun and compelling ways. More than anything, though, I think what I really enjoy about this series is the deep and thoughtful themes. How do we all live together, not just as people and mutants, but mutants together with other mutants? This is also a story, and I know this gets said a lot, but, it really deserves this special recognition where the city actually does feel like a character. New York comes alive. And how fitting, because, not only is it the home to the entire Marvel universe, both literally and creatively, but it's also a city that historically has always been a melting pot, a home to refugees. People looking for their own piece of the American dream, or in this case, trying to reignite the Krakoan dream, whatever that might be. Overall, I would give these 2 issues a very positive 8 out of 10, and I'll be interested to see how this first arc concludes. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.